Yeah. What's up, everyone? It is the Brainless One, and it is Friday, and you know what that means. And it's 6:30. So everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks. It's episode 303. We got a bit to get into today. It's gonna be a pretty interesting show. Of course, we have the Revolution pay-per-view that happened this past weekend. We are going to discuss that. We also have the return of John Cena on Monday Night Raw. That was it was pretty predictable of what was going to happen because, Cena was going to be coming back and it was basically known that it was going to be him in theory for WrestleMania, but we'll get into that. Vince McMahon was also backstage for Monday Night Raw this week. This caused a lot of speculation of why he was there, and apparently he was sporting some new facial hair. We're going to get into that. Also, there has been rumors going around that WWE is considering making wrestling, like, you can actually bet on wrestling. They're actually reaching out to different states and checking out what their laws are in regards to that. And we're going to talk about that. I don't even know what to say to that. I really don't. That is just, I can't wait to talk about that. And just a bunch of other stuff that has happened in wrestling this week that I wanted to get into. Um, I I thought that AEW's Revolution pay per view was very interesting. I think they booked it the way they should have. Um, what do we got leaked this afternoon, Chris Brown? But anyway, I thought the Revolution pay per view was booked very well. I'm glad that I was completely wrong on a lot of my predictions, and they did the right thing. I There was a couple of things about the pay per view I didn't really like, and I just don't understand why they did it, especially with what has transpired since the Revolution pay per view. Um, ooh, really? What's up, Mike Rainey? And Jay is about to pop in too, so this is perfect timing. Um, I'm just out of curiosity, who is the? Oh, yeah. What's up, cousin Jay?
Hey, it's a Friday evening, and what better thing to do than talk professional wrestling?
Can I just say, really off the top of right off the bat, there's two things I wanted to mention. Number
All
one,
right.
I am slightly disappointed that we are not wearing matching shirts because I really thought you were going to wear this tonight.
You I it, there's always that thought out there, specifically with what went on this week. It would have made a lot of sense, but I'm sorry to let you down, brainless
No,
one.
it's fine as long as the Hawaiian shirt at the end of the day will trump it, which is fine. I'm okay with it. I pulled it out and I said, I wonder if Jay's gonna wear his. I'm like, I bet you he does. He's gonna wear it today just because it's gonna be funny. It's fine. I'm not upset. But another thing I want to mention really quick off the bat is I wanted to give you congrats on your predictions from last week. You went 7 for 8 on your predictions, and I'm impressed. I know it's not
Yeah,
a
I mean,
perfect card, but that's a hell of a
just messed up in the women's title match.
yeah. I And the only thing I got right was I said Ruby Soho was going to turn on them, and I got that, and I couldn't get the outcome right. But like I said, my biggest thing was that I took away from this was they booked it the right way. The right people went over in all of their respective matches. And I'm glad that they did that because it showcased that, Jamie Hayter is somebody that they can build towards in the women's division going forward. And, obviously Wardlow was the right call. I mean, we'll get into that, all that shit that happened this week. But honestly, MJF was supposed to win, and he looked good. I mean, him and Brian
Epic.
Danielson had a had a hell of a freaking Iron Man match. And unfortunately, the thing that everybody's talking about is the incident that happened in the middle of that match. But honestly, the Guns going over was the right call. Ricky Starks going over on Jericho was the perfect call.
Wait. Who went over in the tag team match?
Ass Boys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The Ass Boys went over in that match. But I really enjoyed the fact that they booked this the right way. And I applaud Tony Khan for a hell of a card, honestly.
Well, he had all of like the AEW. I don't even know if you could even really call any of them AEW originals. It's not like they started from, let's say, like the version of AEW's Performance Center. There isn't even one that exists. But like if you're talking about getting somebody that's on a national platform in the United States where this is their first real big exposure,
Right.
you know, they put over the people that would be AEW originals over the people who either were in WWE or had, you know, basically the people who were big deals in WWE did not go
Right.
over. So,
and I think they hit everything out of the park.
yeah.
I'm a little surprised, even though we both took the House of Black. I'm still a little surprised that they went over in this match, because now we all know the speculation is going to be now Kenny's going to WWE. Great, can't wait. That's what I need. Kenny Omega and the Saudis going in together, and they both completely wipe out my fandom. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Was there anything about the pay-per-view that stood out for you?
Well, I mean, what you brought up about MJF and the water incident with the child.
Mm-hmm.
And these are my thoughts on it. I mean, Ric Flair, who was one of the more dastardly heels out there, said, I wouldn't have done it just because it was a kid. And the kid was I mean, clearly the kid was like going, oh, what the heck was that? And it seemed like his mother or guardian or whoever that was took more offense to it than the kid did, really. But this is what I'm going to say, like, as far as this goes long term. If you were a child and you were at that event and, you know, you saw your first, maybe it's because of wrestling, maybe it's, you know, the second or third one. Clearly he's not that old. But this is something where years down the line, he's still going to have a memory of that.
Yep.
Nobody else in the crowd is going to have that same exact thing happen to them. And was the kid really and truly hurt by having a little bit of water splashed on him by a wrestler? I'm sure he was surprised and shocked that it happened. But the dude's going to have a lifelong memory, and his family will be like, oh, yeah, remember when that happened? You know, when they get over the shock of like, oh, that normally doesn't happen, they're going to be like, you know what, that was pretty awesome. And Tony Khan did the right thing and brought the family back, had them meet a bunch of the wrestlers and tried to smooth everything over. Because, again, I go to the idea of like, there will be outrage from that family probably for about 5 minutes. And then they're going to, you know, a month from now will be like, oh, yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because nobody else got. Not even Ms. Girl got to be next to Miz. She just got to make the face.
I, again, agree with you with the Tony Khan thing. He handled that whole situation perfectly. You know, he brought the kid back there. The kid got to meet his favorite wrestler, Powerhouse Hobbs, which is awesome.
His childhood hero.
John Cena?
John Cena.
Now, if that's all it takes to meet Powerhouse Hobbs, I mean, hell, the next time they're in Norfolk, I'm going to go and have MJF throw a beer at me. I don't care. I'm going to be mad until I meet my favorite wrestler, Powerhouse Hobbs. But no, like seriously, I would love to beat Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm very happy for him the way that his week has gone.
Yeah,
honestly. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, I'd rather be Danhausen, but you know, we'll get into that another time. But I guess the big thing was it wasn't water, apparently. It was an alcoholic beverage that was in the mother's cup that he dumped on the kid. Apparently, I don't know how legit that is. That's one of the things I've heard through the dirt sheets, that it wasn't actually water. And if you are going to do something like that, you got to have a plan. You can't just expect somebody, because not everybody's going to react the same kind of way. I mean, I know for a fact that you and I joke about what happened 5 years ago when I turned an entire crowd of like 9 people against us at an indie show, and I had more heat on me than any of the wrestlers in the history of that company. But, you know, you don't know how people are going to react. Did you think the kitty litter guy was going to react the way he did when we posted what we posted? No.
Not
so
not at all.
That's why, like, WWE does it right with the plants, and they put the right people in there. I mean, obviously, back when like Triple H was still, you know, the water out of his mouth, it's like SeaWorld. You might get wet and everything. You know, like the wrestlers throw their shirts in the thing. Who knows? Maybe somebody gets hit in the head with that. People get upset about that. I think that in certain situations, it's okay. A liquid, depending on, no matter what it is, yes, I think it's a bigger issue if it is alcohol. Water is a little bit less, you know, bad, I guess. But I guess I think that it's one of those situations that it should have just been avoided. I know he's trying to get heat, but it's a situation that could have been avoided.
I agree. It could have been avoided, but I come back. I'm always like going, all right, in the grand scheme of things, is this child going to be destroyed by this? No. Not only did he get an interaction nobody else had in the match, he also got to do other stuff after.
Right.
Like, if I were, I'd be like going, this is the greatest night ever. I think it'll eventually be that. Now, where MJF, you know, possibly crossed the line as far as this goes, it's like, I know we joked a couple weeks ago about the person who filed the lawsuit against WWE over hearing loss at WrestleMania 38. It's like, you're going to WrestleMania. Like, usually that's not your first show, right, and you know it gets loud. And if you are complaining about hearing loss, and like there was somebody when I posted that reel who is like, well, what if they did lose their hearing? And, you know, it's possible. But I was like, if they want to prove it in a court of law and you're going against Jerry McDevitt, I hope you have a hearing test from right before you went to WrestleMania, and then one that you took after WrestleMania, and oh, by the way, another one far down the line to prove that you have permanent hearing loss. Yeah. Even so, with going to something like WrestleMania, going to Monday Night Raw, you know there are going to be some pyrotechnics and some loud things going on.
Right.
That's assumed, and I think there's always a thing on your ticket that says there will be X, Y, and Z. Be ready for it, type thing. Whereas with this in MJF, clearly he was just acting off the cuff. This was not a plant in the crowd. Again, all that being said, the child was not harmed. The child will have a memory for a lifetime. So I'm going to say, in my view, no real harm, no real foul, okay, but MJF should not do that specifically with kids.
Right, I agree. And to top it off, the kid did get tickets for Dynamite on Wednesday. And since Powerhouse Hobbs is his favorite wrestler, that's the only thing about him winning the belt on, well, I'm happy for him. At the end of the day, I'm happy for him. He's been there for a couple years. He's gone through shit. He did the whole Team Taz thing. I thought he kind of got overlooked, and he got his opportunity, and I'm happy for him. I really am. I wrote the thing at the beginning of the year, and I said that Powerhouse Hobbs deserves to get pushed a little bit, and he's getting that push, and I'm glad for that.
Yeah.
But we don't need the hot potato of the TNT title. What is it, like 14 or 12 different champions in the last 14 months or some shit like that since January 2022?
It's 4 champions in the last, I think, 2 months.
It has been
absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, and then even making that story even crazier, we could say that there is a fifth title holder because somebody broke in and stole the TNT title from Wardlow. Stole his gear, and he ended up posting a video where he was like, "Oh, well, I don't got my boots, I don't have my trunks, but I'm supposed to go against Powerhouse Hobbs tonight, and I guess I'm gonna, if I have to go and fight him in my street clothes, I'll go and do that." So I'm wondering with the TNT title if they, because I don't know if AEW does the same thing, but WWE they have a version of the title that they have for TV specifically, and then they had a secondary one that was for the house shows. And they ended up utilizing that in 2011 when they were doing the John Cena and CM Punk thing, when Punk walked out with the title and Cena ended up winning like the interim title. And Cena was traveling around, I think, with the one that was used for the house shows, and Punk was using the one that was like for TV. So I'm wondering if they actually had a second title that was more for house show type stuff, or if they just, I don't know. I haven't heard any updates as far as if they found the TNT title or anything. I just know that there's a TNT title and it changed hands again.
Which is crazy because there was a tweet. The only tweet we've heard about it since that incident happened where his car got broken into was none other than QT Marshall, who tweeted out, "Boy, I'd like to find out who broke it. I wonder who broke into like his car." And like people are like, "Oh, maybe it was just a work. Maybe it was QT Marshall that broke into his thing. Maybe what might have happened, because I heard earlier this week, is that the factory, after going through and finding out there was 23 fucking factions in AEW last week, we're now down to 22 because the factory is no more." QT Marshall tweeted out and said that they've been disbanded. I said, of all the damn groups you could have gotten rid of, you actually got rid of one that, as much as I hated it, I was pissed to see him go. Now, it's all going to be okay because all it's going to take is for QT Marshall to find one more person. And if it's him, Powerhouse Hobbs, and somebody else, there's a faction. They don't have to be called the factory. Nick Camarado or whatever the frig his name is, the caveman, he can go in there. Who cares? He would fit in with them.
What about a returning Stu Grayson?
Is Stu Grayson actually returning?
It sounds like it. Tony Khan did not say like all out that like he has signed a new deal, but he did say he was returning to AEW.
Well, the Dark Order needs somebody. He fits right in with those guys. I mean, putting Stu Grayson with Hobbs and QT Marshall was like when they put Preston Vance with Rush and the other guy. Roosh. I'm sorry, Roosh.
Right.
So Chris Brown had mentioned before the show had started that there was a leaked name that got, announced for the Hall of Fame this year.
And supposedly
that happens to be
like all of them tonight, and supposedly that the Hall of Fame, because WrestleMania weekend is chock full. You got Stand and Deliver, you got SmackDown, and you got 2 nights of WrestleMania. It's like, where are you going to put that thing?
Right.
So apparently it's going to be after SmackDown in like 3 weeks. And they've named nobody, but apparently they're just going to like rapid fire. Name them all tonight.
Now, I know that Mick Foley came out. I don't remember if it was his podcast or somebody else's podcast. And he was asked about the Hall of Fame. And he says, I'm not going to name names of who it was, but somebody who had a plethora of choices of people to induct him into the Hall of Fame reached out and asked me to do it. He goes, I was just so tickled pink that I have to do it. I'm curious if the leaked name is that person. I don't know what. Okay, it's Great Muta. The Great Muta was announced. Now, mind you, Jay, you and I announced Muta for ours first. I just want that pointed out. I know our class is later in the year, but we announced them first.
Yeah.
But is Muta somebody that would reach out to Mick Foley, of all people, to induct him?
I think it would be really interesting because if you think of the rivalries that Muta had in WCW, NWA, it was, I mean, I think everybody remembers Sting.
Yep.
Everybody remembered Sting, but I have recollections of him going against Cactus Jack.
Okay.
I don't know if it was ever for the TV title or what have you, but I mean, Sting was Muta's arch nemesis, but Sting is clearly in the other company right now and probably wouldn't be allowed to show up. I know, like when AEW first started, they allowed Billy Gunn to go for the DX induction, but clearly there were some issues when they tried to get him for the anniversary of DX.
Right.
So I'm going to say between that and you know, I'm not going to say Sting left on bad terms with WWE, but you know, there's certainly a little bit of tension,
Right.
you know, about how everything went down with that. So I don't think Sting would, you know, be going out of his way to do it, but I think it'd be great if Mick Foley talked about Muta, because I mean, not only did Foley, you know, I think if I'm remembering right, had matches with him in WCW, but Foley was a big deal in Japan, and I'm sure he probably faced Muta a few times in Japan too. I wouldn't doubt.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And if you're trying to get somebody who the U.S. in the WWE audience knows, Foley would be the person. Speaking of Mick Foley, did you see his resume to become part of the Spooky Pals?
4 times.
I enjoyed the hell out of that.
I commented on it. I enjoyed it so much. I said, thank you for this, Mick. And he liked my comment. So I laughed my ass off. I did. I laughed my ass off. I thought it was very well done. And that just proves that Foley is the GOAT. So
only little thing that I'll put in there is I wish the end graphic included world-class championship wrestling.
I can understand that.
WCW and WWE. He did not include world class. I mean, it was WCW and world class where I really got to know Cactus Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, his video, like every like one of the little subtle things he did, the fact that he was wearing the purple and black, you know, flannel, the fact that he had their music, I mean, just in the tears or adding.
I love the fact that his son was the one that was recording it and going, Dad, what is all that stuff on your face? I thought that was great, but the line that killed me when he was doing it was, I like Dominic Mysterio, and I just was like, that's it. I was done. I had to go back and watch it again because I missed like a portion of the thing. I was laughing that hard. I was like, yeah, because that's all it's going to take. Anybody who likes Dominic Mysterio gets into the Spooky Pals. But I'll say this, and I'm going to keep saying this. This is another week, and I hate Dominic Mysterio a little bit less this week. I know it's going to take a long time for me to get on the Dominic Mysterio bandwagon, but we're trending in the right direction. And honestly, Legado del Fantasma versus the Spooky Pals tonight is going to be a fun match to watch until Dominic Mysterio gets in the ring.
That's all right. That's all right. But yeah, I mean that was, you know, a little gift, very unexpected gift from one of the goats.
And F. Mark's Hall of Famer.
Yes. I'm very excited by what I've been working on for the podcast and the podcast page. I don't know if I'm going to put these, I think I might specifically put them on YouTube, but there are things concerning our Hall of Fame, that I have been working on, and I'm looking forward to presenting them soon. I've got some other fantastic ideas that I've got in my brain that I need the time to really flesh out. So
I agree, Chris Brown, that we do need Vicky back for Dominic. But that's cool shit. That's such good shit, pal. Now,
yeah,
is one of the things with the Hall of Fame is we're going to lift the restrictions so that you and I get in?
we'll have to talk to the committee.
Oh, I'm never going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Anyway.
Speaking of things that happened at the pay-per-view that we forgot to mention, after the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match, and the Guns were I'm sorry, Ass Boys were celebrating in the ring after their victory. They were talking about how they were the best tag team in the world, and then FTR's music hits, and here comes FTR. They go, they beat the snot out of the Ass Boys, they hold up the tag team championships. FTR is back. Thoughts?
Well, I think this is FTR preparing to do the honors, in my view. They said they needed time off to consider their options and where they wanted to have what sounds like what both of them consider to be their last run. You know, clearly they had some issues with some of their booking in AEW over the past year and a half. It's like they were booked well, but like when you're the number one contenders for like 8 months and you don't get a title shot, it's weird. So you got things like that, despite the fact that they were champions for like every other thing out there. They had some of the greatest matches in 2022 with the Briscoes, with anybody they faced, really. And I think they took the couple of months off to heal up and really decide what they wanted to do. I'm guessing they came to a decision, and if they've decided that they're going to leave the company, Tony Khan's like, well, I still have them under contract till April, so let's have them have one more go at the title. And similar to Bryan Danielson at the end of his WWE run, hey, let's put him in the ring with Roman Reigns and let's have a freaking banger of a match and have him lose and leave. Yeah. So I think that's what this is. I think they're setting up for a match in a few weeks, and I think FTR is going to lose this match, and it's going to be something to help get the Ass Boys over even more, and I think FTR will be in WWE shortly.
I don't even know what to think anymore. It's hard to read FTR because they're doing all these different things and they're putting all this stuff like the piece of paper with the WWE logo on it with the tequila and then you're posting pictures with Mark Briscoe and you're like friends and all this stuff, and it's like, what are y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna go back to WWE and hope that Triple H does a better job than what Vince did with basically the Usos, the New Day, and the Street Profits? So we have 4 tag teams? I mean, or are we going to stick in AEW and you're just going to let the frickin' Matt and Nick frickin' book you?
Well, and the other thing with this, think about it. Like, they could not get a tag team title match for how many months?
Yep.
Then they finally got the tag team title match. They lose that. They go away for a bit, and now they're getting another tag team title match. Very strange. But I mean, if you want to include like the Viking Raiders as a team, I don't know if the Banger Brothers are still a team. You got Imperium. There more teams than that. They're just not all booked well. That's all.
Yeah.
Chris Brown saw that. Kofi last week hurt his ankle on SmackDown. Apparently it was just like a fluky thing when they were supposed to catch Drew McIntyre and just fell wrong. They thought initially it was going to be worse than what it was, but they said it was an ankle injury. 5 weeks, to me, it sounds like it might be like a high ankle sprain, which those things linger and they suck.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple of them, but he didn't break it. It didn't require surgery. So it sucks he's going to miss WrestleMania. And they've inserted Xavier Woods into his spot in the Intercontinental Championship 5-way match that's going on tonight to determine who's going against Gunther at WrestleMania. They did away with the whole stipulation that they were originally going to do in MSG and figure out his opponent there, but they're going to do it on SmackDown tonight.
And it's between LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, Xavier Woods, Karrion Kross, and of course Sheamus. So there's a lobster head. Sheamus has got a 20% chance of winning this match. I mean, if we really want to do the Steiner math and everything, I think Xavier Woods has like 0% chance of winning this match, but you know. But LA Knight hasn't won a match, I don't think, since I think the only match he's won was Mansoor when he broke away from the Maximum Male Models. He lost to Bray Wyatt at the elimination or at Extreme Rules. He lost to Kofi Kingston a couple weeks ago. I mean, as much as I want to see LA Knight, and as much as I want to see LA Knight at WrestleMania, I just don't see him winning.
Yeah.
It's either going to be, I'm telling you, it's either McIntyre or Sheamus.
I think it was Chris Brown who messaged me about a possible match for LA Knight at WrestleMania, and I was like going, you know what? That's a fun idea. I can't remember who the person was at the moment. There you go, LA Knight versus Austin. He said it was. He saw it somewhere. It's like going, well, I mean, if they were going to do an Austin match, that would be a completely safe match where you're not going to bury anybody.
Right.
It's like, I love LA Knight. I love him as a promo, and I think he deserves better than what he's getting right now, which is still better than what he was getting with Maximum Male Models. But
come on, Jay. You know you missed the days of the titillating of the senses.
Yeah. Mike Rainey, yes, FTR and the Road Dogg kind of sort of have some heat, although Road Dogg said, hey, man, let's talk, and wanted to go on FTR's podcast, and he wanted them on his podcast so they could clear the air. But, you know, I think Triple H, similar to Vince, business is business, and if Triple H wants to build up the tag team division, there's no better team out there to do it with than with a team like FTR. And, you know, hopefully not too long from now, we'll have a returning Tommaso Ciampa, and maybe we get DIY on the main roster as a thing. So
it's possible.
I think a lot of possibilities out there, and Triple H being the boss, he would be the one who makes the final call with that. And if he thought it was best for business, he will get his way.
Yeah. Chris Brown enjoyed Maximum Male Morons about as much as he enjoyed Tibor putting him to sleep.
What about Slapjack?
He's an Impact. I saw a post and it was like Shane, whatever his name is, Shane. It's not Shane Thorne. It's something else.
Yeah.
And they were like, he made his debut, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that name. And I was like, that's Slapjack. Slapjack is back in wrestling. There was one thing I wanted to mention that Mike Rainey had mentioned that we kind of got into a couple of things, but I did want to get back to. He wanted to know what our thoughts were about Sarai, the woman from NXT who just abruptly left and is hosting a press conference.
I actually don't know too much about this other than like the She was upset about whatever was going on and left.
Yeah.
So, like, I just don't know too much about it. I can't comment intelligently on it, but you know my general feelings about anybody who walks out of their job and contractual obligations. No bueno for me.
Right. Yeah, and she's in the press conference. She says she's going to announce going back to Japan. I really don't know too much about it, and I would also try to make an intelligent thought about it. But you and them and everybody in the world, and I know, you got to have a brain to have an intelligent thought, and it's not just a gimmick.
It's a lifestyle.
But I honestly, I really don't know too much about it. I just know that she did leave NXT abruptly and that she was hosting a press conference to announce she was going back to Japan. So it's a very interesting.
Her beating Mercedes Moné for the IWGP Women's Championship, so Mercedes could complain about her booking out in Japan, so she could come back to WWE, so she could complain about the booking there and leave WWE to go to AEW, so she could complain about the booking and leave there, so she could go home and shout at the wall about the terrible booking of the wall.
She could go to NWA and she wants to, if she really wants to complain about the booking, Tyrus is their world heavyweight champion. The Funkasaurus in 2023 is the NWA world heavyweight champion. Those are things I never thought I would ever say in my entire life. But
yeah,
here we are. Yeah. Jay, I cannot believe it. We have gone this far into the episode. I figured it was one of the first things that we were going to talk about. A certain someone had texted me earlier this week, and they broke the news to me in a very unfortunate way that a very important, well-talked about wrestler in regards to the podcast is once again back in professional wrestling. That is one catch.
Yeah.
Chris Hero. The Mauler of Meatloaf.
The Mauler of Meatloaf.
The Destroyer of Dominoes.
He retired from in-ring competition a couple years ago. Did not retire from the catering booth. But for West Coast Wrestling, he is going to be the matchmaker. And I had to read the release a couple times because I thought it said he was going to be the head caterer or caterer tester. I don't know.
He's going to be the matchmaker, Jay. Yeah, burger and fries.
To be a hero for that.
My favorite part
maybe a hero subs and get full subs.
Wait, what is he gonna soul? Oh man! Oh no! I thought that was the perfect response when you texted me that the other day and told me that he's out of retirement to become head booker of catering for West Coast Wrestling. Which is funny because now that he is in a wrestling promotion and he can book matches, I actually now have a top 10 matches for Chris Hero. Cassius. Oh no. Number 10, WWE robbed us of the one match that we all deserve to see, and that was him and Otis Dosovich.
Yes.
But since we won't get that, that's fine. Number 9, he can now book himself in a match with Colonel Sanders. Number 8, Captain Crunch. Number 7, he can book a match against Ronald McDonald. Number 6, and you can have a gimmick on this one. Just put a picnic basket on a pole and have them fight Yogi Bear. Number 5, I know this guy's a piece of shit for one reason or another, but Papa John, I don't remember his last name, but that's how I remember him, is Papa John. Number 4, since we're on the scumbag conversation, he can fight Jared from Subway. The only time I'd actually root for Cassius Ohno to win a match. Chuck E. Cheese rat. Yeah, Chris Brown, my daughter hates the fact that I refer to it as rat pizza. She's 8. Number 3, he can wrestle the Burger King. Frankly, I'd rather see him wrestle the dude from the commercial than if I hear the word Whopper come out of this dude's mouth one more time. The entire East Coast is just going to vanish because I'm just going to be that upset. Number 2, I can't believe we never thought of this, you and I. Joey Chestnut. How have we not thought about Cassius Ohno versus Joey Chestnut in...
They should have had that as a spectacle at WrestleMania. They could have had that main event night 1.
For crying out loud, they're having a...
Cassius Ohno in that promotion's in California. He could be at WrestleMania. He could be. Wait for that.
He could be Cassius Ohno versus Kevin Owens in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match. Oh, but the number one dream match of Cassius Ohno / Chris Hero, the Mauler of Meatloafs, the Bruiser of Buffets, whatever else you can think of, the Liaison of Lasagna. I like to see Cassius Ohno go one-on-one with Grimace, just because they both would get stuck between the bottom rope and the mat getting into the ring.
I wonder how much weight Grimace would gain during the match. I mean, Ono gained 80 pounds in that match. I knew who he was going against, but he started at 50 plus, then he went to 280. By the end of the match, he was 320.
It was.
Was that Nigel who said that?
It was a combination of, I think, Morrow and Nigel, because Morrow had mentioned Mamma Mia, he has gone from 250 to 280, and I'm like, that's incredible that he has gained 30 pounds from the time the bell rang to the time he got to this point. And then it was Nigel was like, you don't see many 300 plus pounders move like him, Morrow. Yeah, he's just getting bigger. It's like that line in Family Guy. My God, he has gotten so fat he has caved into himself.
Oh.
The Noid. The Noid. Perhaps it was the Noid who should have been looking out for me. Oh, man.
That was a great top 10.
I will say, I was going to put the Hamburglar in there, but I'm pretty sure Cassius Ohno would have been pissed if he saw the dude that was going to steal his cheeseburger.
Yeah.
He would have had the same look on his face, and Kevin Owens blocked us.
Yeah. No doubt about
man. Oh yeah, that's a top 10 list right there.
I don't know how we transition from that at all.
Oh man. Yeah, how about, speaking of other ridiculous things, Vince McMahon spotted with a mustache on Monday Night Raw.
I love the stories that are coming out about this. I mean, all the things that we've been talking about and predicting for months are coming true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just showing up because John Cena's there. Didn't show up there, a couple months ago when John Cena showed up. that had to show up to see John Cena this week. Oh, by the way, he didn't just sit there to talk to John Cena. He was hanging out in the gorilla position.
Because I listened to Cornette's podcast, and he had said that it's not out of the realm of possibility because they were in Boston. Boston's just a quick drive up from Stanford. And they probably went to dinner because apparently that's what they did. There's a place that they like to go to in Boston. That's Vince McMahon's golden egg right there. That's his Hulk Hogan that Hulk Hogan didn't end up being, or at least to the point where he could have been pushed away. John Cena was, I should say. I'm not saying that Hulk Hogan is lesser than John Cena. Hulk Hogan, I still think the biggest name in professional wrestling history, and I still take my vitamins and say my prayers. But that's Vince's dude because he did that shit for him for 20 years. It was the face of WWE, 16-time world champion. I could see that being the case. However, it's Vince McMahon, so I don't trust anything that is going on. I need to see this mustache.
I would like to see the mustache, but it's WrestleMania season. Vince can't keep his hands off. There's the rumors that he had stuff to do with the booking of Omos and Brock, which I happen to fully believe. The fact that, I'm just going to be at the Raw to see John Cena. Oh, by the way, I'm going to hang out in the gorilla position the whole time. Why couldn't you hang out with the buck-toothed beaver in the production truck? Stay away from the whole thing. Maybe build together, talk about damn, or do other damn things. I don't think Vince does anything by chance. I think he was trying to gauge the response of the people behind the scenes to see if, he could come back and absolutely destroy everything that Triple H has done since Vince went away. And, the rumor is that there were a handful of people that purposely avoided Vince McMahon and his mustache. I don't know if it was the creepy mustache that kept him away or if it was specifically the fact that it was Vince. And even though most of them, I think, are resigned to the fact that Vince is going to come back and do stuff, they just didn't want to deal with him.
It's very possible. And with the draft coming up right after WrestleMania, that's the perfect time for him to come out with or without the mustache. Although Cornette is convinced that it's going to – he doesn't even believe it actually exists, but –
on the YouTube channel that, it made Vince look like Gomez.
Yeah.
From yeah. He looked like Gomez.
From the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Brock Lesnar's fighting Omos, Brock's not putting over Omos. And I'll tell you, I was so much against this match when it first got announced. And then somebody came in there and said, not for nothing, when Brock Lesnar loads up Omos onto his shoulders and F5s him, that stadium's going to erupt.
Do we get a ring exploding type event for this? I'm not going to say that they're going to do the suplex and the ring blows up, but are we going to get something along those lines to gimmick this even more than it already is? Is Brock going to do it off the top rope?
No.
There's going to be something along those lines that happens in this match to make you think that the bad match, had some redeeming characteristics. It's like, remember a couple of years ago, we're like, why the hell are we getting The Miz versus Shane McMahon?
Right.
And it wasn't like a technical masterpiece, but it was one of those, I remember it super clearly because there were enough really, a lot of holy crap moments that will just stick in your mind that they did. Is that what they're aiming for here? Because we're going to get a trash match, but, if we have a good ending, think back to Hogan and the Giant. This is not going to be Hogan Giant, but not the greatest match, but you had that ending with the body slam and the leg drop, and everybody remembers that.
Yep.
Is that what we're going to get here with Lesnar and Omos? Clearly, it's not going to have the same impact as that did, but they're probably trying to cook something up like that.
Yeah, I can see that being the case. Like if they gimmick the ring where it just like crashes as he hits the F5. I mean, what the hell do you do after that if the ring explodes? Because usually when you have matches like that, that's the last match of the night, if I remember correctly. Like when Braun Strowman broke it with the Big Show, I'm pretty sure that ended the match. The same thing when Mark Henry did the same thing, I think, with the Big Show, and Brock Lesnar did the same thing.
Or the Tractor SummerSlam.
Right. So and you're not going to finish off night one with Brock Lesnar and Omos.
But you could sit there and put it at a certain point in the card where they could all of a sudden put up one of those like 5-minute long video packages. Or if you're going to sit there and book it in a way where like the next match has to deal with what happened there. Like if the match after that happened to be a gimmick match where it was like no holds barred or falls count anywhere, then you're all set. It won't matter.
But if they do something like Gunther versus whoever he's fighting, Sheamus or Drew McIntyre, I mean, that's just silly. You're not going to follow up with that.
Hey, you know what? Those guys will make it work.
Ooh, I know how you could do it. One of two ways. Number one, the match that follows that match is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match, so they don't even need the wrestling ring. They're going to have the bowl of cereal. Or Omos and Brock Lesnar is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match. And Brock Lesnar F5s him into a bowl of cereal.
It's not the worst idea, although I'm still convinced that they have these gimmick sponsorships specifically to pay Bray Wyatt's salary. Like, we're going to have Bray wrestle 4 times. We're paying him $4 million. Well, we got $1 million from Mountain Dew for the Pitch Black match. Well, it's WrestleMania, so for Cinnamon Toast Crunch, we're going to have to charge them a cool $1.5 million. And when we do it at SummerSlam, we're going to have to charge like another $1.5 million for it to have the trying to think of the next gimmick that could be out there that could be ridiculous and fun at the same time.
The Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, which I'm sure Mountain Dew wishes they could get that $1 million back. They're going to have this. I don't even know what the hell they're going to do with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match. I mean, what's next? Are they going to do? Are they going to do
her scenario and they ruined it?
I know. Jay, you and I know what we're doing. They don't. But obviously Captain Wedgie's not there, so they can't have a stairs match.
I mean, he is the stairs match guy. Hey, one thing about that, we don't know. Captain Wedgie could show up at WrestleMania.
And it's interesting that you say that because there's a lot of I've noticed this now that there's a lot of people getting frustrated with Bray Wyatt. And somebody had mentioned, because like somebody had made a post and I was actually reading it, and I apologize. That was the reason why I was a minute or two late into the podcast, because I saw it and I was like, fuck. And I was reading it and I was like, that's very interesting. And they were talking about the whole Bray Wyatt thing. And I was scrolling through some of the comments and somebody said, we need to see what's going to happen. He's like, I'm going to hold off judgment to see what's going to happen. But the fact that they're taking this long to drag out the Wyatt 6 thing, if they're going to actually do something with it, they have to have a resolution on it or else they're going to lose everybody.
Yeah.
And like I said last week, I'm giving them till WrestleMania. If it doesn't make any sense, then I can't do the Bray Wyatt thing anymore.
I will give them till the SmackDown after WrestleMania, because they might not show people necessarily the night of WrestleMania, but I mean, if you wanted to have Bray go over on Bobby Lashley, having a whole bunch of people outside of Uncle Lousy interfere would make an awful lot of sense.
Yep. I agree. But all right. If you're going to give them to the SmackDown after WrestleMania, I will also give them the extra week, and I will give them to the SmackDown after WrestleMania. But if there's really nothing, like if Howdy doesn't get involved or Alexa Bliss, like Chris Brown said, who's just sitting at home waiting for a phone call, if there's nothing, if Eric Young isn't there, if it's just Bray Wyatt and Bobby Lashley having a match at WrestleMania, I don't know. They got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I hate the fact that it's taken this long to get to where we are.
Yeah. All right.
Speaking of pay-per-views, WWE announced that WWE Backlash returns next month in Puerto Rico. And not only is it going to be in Puerto Rico, but future WWE Hall of Famer Bad Bunny will be hosting WWE Backlash. I for one, think this is great that they're going back to Puerto Rico. It has been a long time since WWE has been there. I love the fact that they're expanding into other areas for pay-per-views. We got the Clash of the Castle, which was a great success. They've always had hot crowds. I mean, you saw it at Montreal for Elimination Chamber. I'm glad that Puerto Rico is getting a show. This shows that WWE is really expanding to areas that they don't normally go to.
Well, and beyond that, we're talking Money in the Bank is going to be in England, and there's also now talks again about them having a stadium show in Australia. Yeah. And beyond that, they have officially announced the next Saudi show, which is going to be at the end of May, and they're going to crown the king and queen of the ring that night. And I know that the current king and queen were a little miffed about the packages about this, where neither of them were actually shown. It's like, these are your current king and queen. I know that they kind of did away with the gimmick for now, but those are the people who won most recently. Yep. They should have been shown, and Xavier Woods is like, oh, wait, there, I fixed it, and showed actual footage of he and Zelina as the king and the queen. I mean, I'm not going to watch that. You know that I'm not going to watch that. But anyway, this is clearly more of Nick Khan and Triple H trying to expand their footprint across the world, similar to what the NFL has been trying to do in Europe for the past decade, right, by having a game in England. I think they had one in Germany, if I'm remembering right. Just to, hey, you might not necessarily get a team in those places, but you'll have a game that you could watch and maybe expand interest, and maybe at a far date in the future, you end up, having like an NFL Europe, and then have this like Super Bowl. But being able to have a bigger footprint with a bigger drawing event, whether it's in Australia or going to a place like Puerto Rico that you don't go often, to really like grab the fans. Because like, if you're a young kid and you're in one of those like stadiums where the crowd is just going absolutely bonkers, you will turn somebody into a forever fan, because they're going to remember that feeling that they had being in that crowd, and they're always going to like come back to it.
Yep, I agree. And it wasn't a couple years ago that you and I were up at like 3:00 in the morning to watch them wrestle in Australia the last time they were there?
Yeah, something like that.
I think it was like 3 or 4 in the. It was some weird thing, and I remember I was actually driving around to like 7-Eleven trying to get beers at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, we might have drank some 40s watching it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on board with it. I think this is great. And this is the perfect thing for Bad Bunny to do. I think this is because he's going to get involved in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And honestly, I wouldn't be upset if he was in a match. I wouldn't. So
yeah, not at all.
So I think this is a slam dunk.
Chris Brown, I could definitely see that where they're doing the Premium Live events internationally to try to hopefully build up some hype and maybe have more of the different NXTs. I know they're going to do NXT Europe in the coming year, and I know that they want to do stuff in the Far East and perhaps India and also I think Saudi Arabia, and maybe have Mansoor be the Undertaker of Saudi Arabia. I don't know if him being an Undertaker-esque undefeated person in Saudi Arabia as a maximum male model will work. I don't think it works very well because as the Brainless One so aptly said, his favorite part of maximum male models is seeing Mansoor look dead inside.
My favorite part is you see him and he's got the look on his face and you can hear poor Eli Drake doing everything and the senses are tintillating. And I'm like, oh my God, this dude looks dead. He looks like a DMV employee. He's gonna look like he looks like what a Jet fan is gonna look like if they don't trade for Aaron Rodgers.
He looks like a Jet fan every year.
He looked like.
Wait. Did I mean Cowboys fans the last 30 years?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Almost 30 years.
Always filled with hope at the beginning of the year, and they're filled with hope even going into the playoffs, and then they realize that they got Dak Prescott.
And Jerry Jones is still their owner / general manager / president / quasi head coach, offensive coordinator, fourth string quarterback.
Still better than F and Mark's Hall of Famer's uncle Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder's the worst.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny versus Logan Paul.
You know what? Book that match. I would be interested. They would probably perform better than half the roster.
Logan Paul performs better than 90% of the roster. And now everybody's starting to say he's got a better buckshot lariat than freaking Hangman Page.
Not only that, Gunther has come out and said, that dude does things in the ring I would not even consider. Just goes to show you how committed Logan Paul is. Whether you like Logan Paul or not, he is a hell of a performer, and I certainly give him credit for what he's done in the ring in his very short WWE career.
No, he's definitely put out the effort. I respect the fact. What's up, Timmy? I respect the fact that he has put in the time and the effort to learn the craft of professional wrestling. He has gone out there and is trained, and he has done everything he needed to do. I have no problem with Logan Paul, the wrestler. I have a very, very big I feel about Logan Paul the way you feel about the Saudi government.
Yeah?
Yeah? Logan Paul, the only way I can hate Logan Paul any more than I do now is if he was a Yankee or a Cowboy fan.
So on the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, just remember what happened to the last franchise quarterback from Green Bay. Who did he get traded to?
The Jet. The goddamn Jets.
And then he sent out he sent out pictures of his thing to that reporter, right? Is that what Aaron Rodgers is going to do? Speaking of Brett Favre.
Oh, God.
Favre, who is in the same heat that the DiBiase family is in right now. One Brett DiBiase is officially going to be going to jail, going to prison. He pled guilty to federal fraud charges. And I don't have it in my notes, but my memory is kind of recalling, I think he's going to be going away for a few years.
Sounds about right.
So if he's getting brought up on, like, if he pled guilty and is planning to seeing that that's a better option than what he's got, I'm wondering what his dad and his brother are thinking to themselves right now.
Yeah. Teddy Sr. is trying to get into Stanford. Hey, Vince, I need Jerry's number, man. Everybody's got a price. You tell him whatever his is, I'll pay.
Yeah.
And Brett Favre, too. Brett Favre, I can't believe that Brett Favre and Ted DiBiase are in the same thing here. And Brett Favre has the audacity to sue future WWE Hall of Famer Pat McAfee for saying that he didn't do it. Like, really? Unbelievable.
Anyway, yes, I did see that. Chris Brown, Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul will be night one of WrestleMania. I did not see that it was kicking off night one of WrestleMania, but that, you know what? That's a great way to start off WrestleMania weekend.
Oh, yeah, set the tone early. I mean, honestly, if you're going to do Stand and Deliver Saturday as well, I mean, you're really going to set the tone early, because if it is Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker, I hate to follow that on the WrestleMania card. But Logan Paul and Seth Rollins as the curtain jerker of night one that's a great call.
Yeah. And speaking of Carmelo Hayes, I mean, MVP has teased a possible new faction that would involve Carmelo Hayes along with Omos and the Street Profits. What do you think? Do you think we will see this come to fruition, or is MVP just messing with us?
Oh, he's just messing with people, because they've been talking about having Carmelo Hayes join the Hurt Business for a while. And I mean, hell, I've said it. I'd love to see him in the Hurt Business. I'd love to see him leading Hit Row. Honestly, I don't care what they do with Carmelo Hayes. I just want him on the main roster. Him and Trick. He's got to bring Trick Williams with him. I want the whole thing. I need all the bells and whistles that are included in it. He is him. That is the future of WWE. And now I'm at the point where I'm torn, where I'm like, do I really want to see him win the NXT Championship? I do, but I also want to see him on the main roster.
And I think the thing at this moment is, does WWE want to elevate Carmelo Hayes, or do they want to elevate Braun Breaker? Because quite honestly, Brock Lesnar doesn't have a ton of time left in his career, I don't think. I would love to see Braun Breaker against Brock Lesnar at some point, but they would need to do significant building of Braun before they could do that.
Right.
I mean, quite honestly, and I was talking with a coworker today, I think it would behoove WWE to have WrestleMania 41 in Minnesota and have Brock Lesnar have his retirement match against somebody like a Braun Breaker.
Yeah. It'd be better than him doing the honors for, like, Omos.
Yeah. Omos should not be his last match.
Oh, and Chris Brown, I didn't get to mention this earlier. Omos is light years better than the Great Khali. I'm sorry. That's Omos. I've seen Omos in the ring. He moves better than the Great Khali. He wrestles better than the Great Khali. I would say he's probably in a class with Mabel from Men on a Mission.
See, I would put him in a class with, like, I'm not going to say early-ish Big Show. Big
What's up,
Show ended
Jessica?
a better performer over the years, but I would say like Big Show early 2000s. Not the worst, not the best, but
Hayes or Brecker, though.
But if you're bringing up, I'm going to say whoever loses that match, we will see very shortly after WrestleMania.
Absolutely. And I don't even know. That's how hard this is to predict, because Carmelo Hayes deserves to win it. Braun has had this title for a long time. Carmelo has been in NXT longer than Braun Brecker. People might forget that. Carmelo Hayes has been there for a little bit because he was wrestling for a couple of months before they had the breakout tournament that he was in.
Right.
And Braun's been there for a little bit over a year. And he won the title last year at Stand and Deliver the day before WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I can see a case for them putting the title on Carmelo, but I think he belongs on the main roster. I really do. Braun Brecker can stay down there because then they could do the Brecking Crew like I've been asking for. They teased it on Tuesday, Jay. They gave us the Brecking Crew, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
all right. So Tim is calling Omos like Big John Studd. As far as Studd goes, I mean, I know for me, like, for the most part, like, I saw him kind of in the back end of his career. I remember him from when he and King Kong Bundy cut Andre the Giant's hair. I didn't see too much of him then, and then he went away for a couple of years and wanted to retire, and then came back in 1989. And I actually heard Bruce Pritchard talk about how Studd had told him, like, oh, I'm doing this and doing this and doing this. I'm in great shape and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And said he finally saw him in person and said John Studd was nothing like what he said he was, because back then it was just a telephone call.
Right.
And you didn't, you couldn't text people, you couldn't take pictures and send it to people. But, specifically, he talked about how they had to cut together vignettes to make John Studd look, good upon his return. And you had him return in 1989. You put him over in the Royal Rumble, but, he never quite got there. But John Studd in the late 80s was not what he was in, the 70s and early 80s.
Right.
And I remember him from like the mid 80s. So.
Yeah, I remember him from when it was him and Andre with the Body Slam Challenge, I believe, at WrestleMania 1.
Yep.
I remember him, at WrestleMania 3. I remember him from his 80s run. So, and I do remember him winning I think it was the second Royal Rumble that he won, because won the first one.
He did. Yeah, Gabe Steveson, that's another name out there, but he sounds like he is going to do the Olympics one more time before we actually really see him. Although even with that, he had actually teased that he will be showing up shortly, possibly after WrestleMania.
Okay.
Whether or not we're going to see him in like an actual run, or if he's going to have some sort of in-ring segment, I don't know, because like if you're training for the Olympics, I mean, that's going to be a full-time thing. You're not going to be able to, hey, well, let me try to learn this wrestling while also trying to, do full-time training for the Olympics.
Right.
You can't be, half pregnant. You're either all in or you're all out.
Right. And another thing, Gags the Clown asked, was it you that posted the spoof on Vince McMahon with the Omos versus Omos versus Omos versus Omos match?
I wish. I wish it were for me. but it was not. I've got something that I know you, Brainless One, are going to enjoy quite a bit. It's an idea that I cooked up yesterday because I saw an article about a thing, and not only are you going to be excited about this thing I'm doing, but Tim Kirchen is going to be excited about this thing I'm doing.
It's going to be about a monsoon of gorillas. Oh boy, this is going to be fantastic. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. That is, without a doubt, that's a Rushmore of gimmicks. Because you got the dead man who doesn't die, which is number one. A monsoon of gorillas. You can't top a monsoon of gorillas. I'm sorry.
A garbage man.
Yes.
Like a garbage man.
Jay, come on. You and I are both from Bristol. You can't tell me you've never seen a garbage man that looked like Duke Joshi driving down the street in the back of a truck.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. An Omos Fatal 4-way.
Yeah. Make sure that you record that and you know, I know your brother records some of his video game content. So if you don't record it, have Tommy record it. F and Mark's Hall of Famer Tommy. Record Omos versus Omos versus Omos versus Omos. I think you should have it be a fatal 5-way and have Nicholas in the match instead of Okada.
And I don't think there's a video game out there that you could do El Gigante versus the Great Khali either.
Versus Nails versus Omos.
Versus the Great Antonio.
No, I would just do Antonio Inoki versus the Great Antonio and just have him beat the holy hell out of him.
What do you think would have happened if the Great Antonio wrestled New Jack?
It would have been worse. It would have been worse. We would have had a stabbing, possibly a shooting.
Hold on.
Of the Great Antonio.
Would it have been worse than the mass transit situation, the Gypsy Joe thing? It would be worse? You're telling me what would happen with the Great Antonio and New Jack would make the mass transit situation look like Shawn Michaels standing back as Marty Jannetty threw himself through the glass window at the barbershop?
Yes, because with the mass transit incident, that was, you know, just trying to teach a lesson there.
Oh my!
Stupid. Just trying to teach a lesson. The 70-year-old dude who was supposed to be tougher than a $2 steak. That was just specifically New Jack trying to say, all right, you're tougher than a $2 steak. Let's see. I'm going to stab you like 20 times. See if you live. And the thing is with Great Antonio is he would not only like disrespect New Jack, but he would be disrespecting the business. And I think that's why New Jack would have stabbed him to death and perhaps pulled out a gun. Just like in the movie The Last Boy Scout, is the dude sits there and is running down the field and can't get tackled, so he just starts shooting people. That's what New Jack would do. He's like, all right, you're not going to go down? All right, I'm going to shoot you.
I miss New Jack. I swear, my favorite thing was I saw the top 10 list of the times that wrestling got too real. And not only was he was the only person that was in there multiple times. He was number 1 and number 2, and I think he was number 4. And I don't even think they mentioned the mass transit situation. Oh, because it was the Gypsy Joe thing, and then there was the one where he threw the dude off of the scaffold.
And wanted him to like land on his head and kill him. Yeah.
Yes. I just kicked.
Anyway.
Another thing that happened on Raw this week, we finally got a turning point in the storyline between the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. As when Jey Uso came out and it really looked like he was going to be joining forces with his brother, and then he super kicked Sami Zayn, threw Sami into the ring, and they beat the bloody hell.
Through the barbershop window.
They beat him senseless. Jay, I can't. 35 years that I've been watching this now. It's pretty much about 35 years at this point. I've never have seen a more compelling story in wrestling. I'm sorry. They put this thing together, and it's not even just the fact that Sami Zayn has knocked this out of the park, and obviously Roman Reigns has knocked this out of the park, and you already know what you're getting out of Paul Heyman. But even Jimmy and Jay have just been incredible.
Don't forget about Solo.
I'm not forgetting about Solo, because I know it's kind of like Major League 2, and they're talking about the slow start. You know, Solo is just kind of lying in the weeds, just waiting for his moment. I have a feeling that once Roman drops the titles, Solo is going to be the one that sends him packing home for a while. Or hell, I could even
The only way in this podcast, there's two ways this could happen. That Roman Reigns does not get the wettest hair is if he's out for an entire calendar year from December to December where we don't get to see him and his wet hair in a WWE ring. The other way is he shaves himself bald, or they do like what they used to do back in World Class Championship Wrestling, where they would put the nair on people's head and they would go bald. I remember that happening to it was the Freebirds versus Von Erichs, and I remember they put it on Buddy Roberts' hair, and it all fell out. That would be the only way Roman Reigns does not win wettest hair.
Okay. It doesn't matter. He's still going to win it this year. He showed up in 2023. He automatically wins. Unless he shaves his head, like you said. If he shaves his head, he gets disqualified and he's not eligible. And then Seth Rollins ends up getting it.
Yeah.
Although grease ball, Kenny Omega.
And wettest hair.
Now, unless I finally feel like giving Kenny Omega a positive Marquee Award and he can win it because he's pretty grease. But that's because I'm convinced he doesn't know what a shower looks like, so. Seth Rollins will win wettest hair. And I've heard the same thing about how Solo is going to be the one that gets the next major push. I could see it happening. There was a reason why they had him work with people like Gunther down in NXT. He's the real deal. That kid is legit. I can't wait to see what happens with Solo over the next decade, because they got themselves a real good one. He got the look. He's got the wrestling ability. He's got, and everybody's wondering what's going to happen with Paul and all of this. Paul could just take Solo.
Yeah.
Solo doesn't need to talk. You can have the wise man continue on for him.
Yeah.
I'm bored because there's a lot of good reasons to be happy and positive about the future of WWE, because you got people like Solo Sikoa, and you got Braun Breaker, and you got Carmelo Hayes, and I don't see it as much, but what's his face? Grayson Waller,
Montez,
Austin Theory. They have a lot of really good young pieces that they can build around for a good decade plus. And I know that Austin Theory looks like shit, but man, that kid can work. I swear, he's a damn good worker. He
got his ass handed to him on the mic on Monday. John Cena with freaking schnut shot and you need more of that you definitely need more of that last thing.
Yes.
I love the promo that Cena cut on him too, saying, hey, if you win, you lose. If you lose, you lose. I don't want to fight you, but you know what? These people said yes, so I'm going to fight you at WrestleMania for the U.S. Championship, and you're not going to be able to deal with the crowd the day after because the weight's going to all be on you. It's not going to be me and you. It's going to be all on you, and you're not ready for it.
Ooh, that Monday Night Raw crowd the night after WrestleMania of Austin Theory. Not even if. Spoiler alert, I'm calling it now. Austin Theory is going over on John Cena at WrestleMania. Although I'm convinced it's not a lock. Nothing is a lock with John Cena as far as I'm concerned. But that crowd on Monday after Theory beats Cena is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be Roman Reigns beating The Undertaker
right,
thick or deep or whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be close. But if he loses, oh my God, I hope he loses just because I want to see the crowd just give him the business. Ugh.
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 Mm.
But it's going to be a fun match.
Yeah. But speaking of which, Austin Theory refers to himself as the Now. Apparently, there is a team on the indie scene that WWE is aware of who has trademarked the Now as part of their thing. They actually have sent WWE now to, according to them, cease and desist orders about Austin Theory stopping using that as part of his thing. What do you say about this, brainless one?
They trademarked it. So they have the right to do this. If they want him to stop being called the Now, he's got to do it. This isn't like this is something that even Jerry McDevitt's going to be like, all right, this is a waste of my time. No. Just stop saying it's stupid. Or put a mask on. You and Dominic Mysterio.
The other way around it is when they started NXT, there was actually another thing that owned NXT. And I think WWE just paid them. You could just pay them, although I don't believe that's what they're going to do here. I think they're just going to, we're going to ride this out temporarily and we'll just delay it till we finally just say, okay, we give up. And at that point, then the story that they have with Austin Theory being the Now will be done.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're going to do.
Probably. It's WWE. So they're either going to pay or they're just going to drag it out. One or the other. And they're going to end up paying. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I have left on my list is I wanted to talk about something that is now near and dear in my heart. WWE announced earlier this week that they are going to start allowing gambling on professional wrestling matches. I'll say this. What they've been doing on DraftKings is a lot of fun, where you can enter in against 75,000 people and try to predict what happens in a pay-per-view. Whether it's just the whole pay-per-view or if it's the main event, and how many times MJF is going to pin Bryan Danielson, and if Smokey and the Bandit are getting involved, or what kind of stipulations, all that stuff. I think it's great. Now we're going to have matches on the most predictable thing on planet Earth is professional wrestling, and you're going to allow gambling on it. I cannot wait until I see all this stuff. Can we fast forward it? Can we just speed up the process? Do I have to talk to our useless governor, Glenn Youngkin, to see if he can pass this along a lot quicker? Because I like to bet on WrestleMania this year, because I'm going to bet on the over of F5s at 1.5 for the Brock Lesnar versus Omos, and I'm putting it in my single game or my same game parlay, whatever the hell it is. My super duper single game parlay, where I'll have that and the over and under on RKOs at half, and I'll take the over on that too.
All right, so currently there are three states that they're actually trying to get this legitimized. They want it in Michigan, They want it in Colorado, they want it in Indiana. I don't I have not dug deep enough to find out why exactly they chose places like these. Clearly, there is a legal strategy where they believe that these are the places where they have the best shot of getting it done.
Really?
Some of the that they have talked about specifically for this, there are some things that are really interesting about this. They would have to let a third party know several months in advance what the outcome of a match will be and more or less lock it away in the safe, and would not tell the performers until right before they went out what the end was of their match, who was going over. Because you could book a whole match and you could go over a couple of scenarios of how it could end when you're prepping for it,
yep.
And then say, by the way, go with this ending because you're going over, right? They could do that. One thing that would be really good for this is this means long-term booking would actually mean something. Vince McMahon would not be able to sit there and zig and zag and zig and zag and zag. He would have to stay true north and not deviate from that. He wouldn't be able to be, changing things at the last second because he would have to eventually get to the thing that they agreed to, that they had put in a lockbox, and not change it.
Right.
For it to be legit.
I
love that idea. But if, and I'm not even going to say if, when somebody starts illegally making money from this because they know the results ahead of time, it's nothing but a bad thing for WWE. And it might not be the first year, the second year, the third year. And if somebody's smart enough, they'll sit there and just skim a little or bet a little here and there.
Yep.
But there's going to be somebody stupid enough to put a really big money thing down, and you're going to find out that they're connected to somebody who knows something about something. And it's going to be a big problem for WWE unless they're owned by the Saudi government where they could just pay anything off. I think it's an interesting idea, but it's overall, I think, going to be a bad thing that could be a downfall to the company.
I see two other flaws in this. Because let's say you have to do it 3 months out. Let's say like 2 weeks beforehand, one of the two people in the match gets hurt and they can't wrestle in the match. So now you're going to have that situation. Well, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? The other thing is Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar literally got himself disqualified so he wouldn't have to fight Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I am now 100% convinced that is what happened. And now poor Bobby Lashley is stuck with Bray Wyatt. I am convinced of that because he is the ultimate wild card. And the casino, because I know that Vegas has been doing this because it's Las Vegas. They'll bet on anything. Anything and everything they bet on in Vegas. But I do remember that at WrestleMania 30, they had said like days or a week or so after WrestleMania 30, they said that the line changed significantly in favor of Brock Lesnar the day of WrestleMania. So this goes by what you were saying. That's all it's going to take. It's just going to take that one person that does it, and it's like, and if they're smart about it, and you know how people are, they think they're smart until they prove otherwise. They do it here and there, but people are not that smart. As I think the best advice I've ever received about gambling was my late uncle said to me, the money that you make at the casino is just a loan because you end up paying it back with interest.
Yeah.
So I could see this could be a good thing, but they're going to have to do so many different types of rules and regulations. Because, like, I know that if you work at OTB, you can't gamble at that OTB.
Like, if you work in WWE or an independent contractor, you cannot. You will not be allowed to do anything with this. If you have a family member, your family members can't be allowed to gamble on this stuff. I think it would be so hard for them to regulate any of this, again, it would eventually be a problem, and because it would end up being a fraud thing, like where like WWE's determining the outcomes. It'd be like just like the Black Sox scandal of 100+ years ago, where they almost killed baseball.
Yep. And
as much as the long-term booking aspect of it, where they would have to stick to the damn plan outside of barring injury, I love that. Keep to the storyline. But man, oh man, like that there are just so many problems that could come with it. And as much as I appreciate Nick Khan for thinking outside of the box as far as ways to either boost the presence of WWE in the world or boost revenue, this one, in my view, is a bad idea. It will only be bad.
And one of the reports I read before the show even said that if they do this and it fails, this is going to come back and backfire so bad on WWE, they're going to be fucked. So, like you said, it really does seem like they're leaning more and more towards selling the company to the Saudis, Jay, I can't watch AEW. I can't. After what they did this week, I can't. It's terrible.
Hey, Revolution, baby. Revolution was great.
But just the booking decisions, like I can't. I can't take the tag team division seriously because the Young Bucks are the ones who booked the tag team division. I can't take the women's division seriously because Tony Khan doesn't know what the hell he's doing with the women's division. And I can't take the men's division seriously because they've hot potatoed the TNT title worse than WWE ever did to the U.S. Championship. It is now the 24/7 championship of AEW.
And speaking of AEW championships, we got a rebrand. And it's something, quite honestly, that they should have just called this from the beginning. They called it the All-Atlantic Championship, but yet you had nations that were from the Far East that were touching the Pacific Ocean.
Yep.
You know, as flags on the design of the belt. It shouldn't have been called the All-Atlantic Championship. They should have called it the All-International Championship from the get-go. It's a better name for it. You know, the belt looks good. I'm glad that, you know, we got Orange Cassidy getting some credit and getting some wins with it. But, you know, they ended up utilizing a fact that they got a sponsorship with the movie Shazam to be their kind of way of trying to figure out, oh, well, how are we going to rebrand this title? All right, well, we'll use this sponsorship. I can't wait till Bray Wyatt ends up winning the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Heavyweight Championship.
It's going to be a belt with just a freaking thing of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch on it.
And you know what? They're going to sell 1 million of those because why does Bray Wyatt, they keep him around because guess what? He sells merchandise. He is over with the audience enough where people will put their hard-earned money or kids will drive their parents batshit crazy so much that they're like going, all right, fine, I'll get you the damn thing.
Right.
And then everybody is, you know what? They should have Bray Wyatt in like a Count Chocula match when they do Halloween Havoc next year on the main roster.
And it's going to be him and Mel Kiper, right, in the corner?
Well, I mean, that could be good. I mean, you could have him against Joe Gacy in a Count Chocula match.
In the Schism or Schism, whatever the frig it's called.
Right. Yeah, so I'm glad that they, you know, rebranded the All-Atlantic Championship. It makes more sense to me, like having all those different flags on the title. I get it. So there's that. We've been told official, Double or Nothing will be May 24th at the T-Mobile Arena once again in Las Vegas. You know, it fits the branding for it. It's become a tradition now. They've done it there for several years in a row. So that'll be good. That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. We also found out that Revolution did just shy of 130,000 pay-per-view buys, a little bit under what I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20 or 30,000 less than they did last year. So, there's been a little bit of a drop as far as that business goes. I don't know if that's all, due to CM Punk, but anyway, AEW is doing some things in a positive direction, some things not so positive. But yeah, I'll take that. And also, we found out official, because a couple of weeks ago it sounded like All Access was going to start on March 1st, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, where is it? We didn't get to see Eddie Kingston swearing up and down like a sailor on our TV after Dynamite, but March 29th will be when All Access premieres. And they did say that that's when Adam Cole, baby, was going to make his return to AEW and have a match. So it looks like we will be seeing Adam Cole in a match in about 2.5 weeks, and we will get the premiere of All Access, and hopefully we get to see the fun side of Eddie Kingston, the brainless side.
I just want to see it because I am convinced that all he does is he gets on the train from the boroughs and just gets off the train and gets into the ring. His music hits as soon as the doors open. And his music hits and he comes out there and he's wearing whatever pants. I still need to see the pants that he wears. I guess it's the Puerto Rican flag pants. I need to see those at least once.
Now, Kingston strikes me as a Jets-Mets fan.
Giants.
Do you really? All right.
Oh, he's a Giants Yankees huge. Because
really?
remember when he came out for that blood, and I think it was the blood, whatever the hell it was, where they went up against the Blackpool, or he teamed up with the Blackpool Combat Club against Jericho and all them. When he came out to the ring with the gasoline can covered in blood, he was wearing a Yankees shirt. And I said the only way it would have been better if he was wearing a Giants shirt, but But I know he's a huge Knicks fan too.
All right, Gags sent the Omos thing via TikTok. I'm going to see if I can play this thing.
5 WrestleMania dream matches. Number 1, Goldberg versus Omos. Yeah, Bill might be 56 years old, but he moves like he's 55. Number 2, The Great Khali versus Omos. Be like Hogan and Andre to the 10th power. Number 3, Omos versus my ungrateful son Shane. This one needs no explanation. Number 4, Omos versus Omos. Let the best Omos win. And number 5, Omos versus Omos versus Omos versus Omos in a fatal 4-way with special guest referee Omos. If I was still in charge, I'd make this happen, pal. That looked like a pain in me.
Oh man, they're gonna do Omos if Shane somehow, some way weasels his way back into WWE. He's fighting Omos next year in Philadelphia, and I hope that Omos throws him into the freaking Rocky Balboa statue.
That would be great. So yeah, outside of that, the Ring of Honor tag team titles, which clearly, I mean, were kind of in purgatory for a bit of time with the passing of Jay Briscoe. They have officially announced when those championships the new champions will be decided, and it will be March 31st on the Ring of Honor the Super Card of Honor in a Reach for the Sky ladder match. So,
and the Lucha Brothers were the first official tag team announced for the match. It was a spoiler. I guess Mark Briscoe's going to announce it, and I'm glad that they're going to do something like this. I think it's a good thing. And the fact that they're naming it the Reach for the Sky ladder match, that's a nice touch. I'm glad that they're not going to completely wipe out Jay Briscoe from their history.
Yeah.
So
you got that. one thing we didn't even hit on this. Dude, last week, SmackDown, Cody Roman promo. Holy shit.
Oh, that was good.
That was fire.
That was some good. That was such good shit. I think they both nailed it and knocked it out of the park. Roman is just very good at how he just presents himself. I think he outshined Cody a little bit more, but man, that was so good.
Cody wasn't outmatched. Roman wasn't outmatched. It's like, but hey, you know what? Somebody has to get a little bit over on the other one, and vice versa. But you know, Cody didn't look out of his depths. He didn't look out of his depths with Heyman. He hasn't looked out of his depths with Sami Zayn. Cody is holding his own on the microphone. He could certainly back it up in the ring.
Oh,
I know Tim thinks that Cody is kind of like Sasha, who has a higher, opinion of
himself. I think maybe before he did. I think now that he is a father and he's been in like the corporate position and now he's not, I think he's a little bit more humble, because years ago he used to hate people doing Dusty impressions. Now he's standing in the ring on house shows with the guy who does the Dusty impression, that guy who does it, who dresses up like the Dream, baby. I think that he's starting to loosen up a lot more, and he's not like the pretentious one that he thought he was years ago.
And Roman's impression of Dusty was really damn good.
Yeah. Oh, man. Honestly, goodness, I love a good Dusty Rhodes impression. I do. Dusty's just one of those guys that he'll always have a special place in my heart because of who Dusty Rhodes was and what he meant to professional wrestling.
Yeah. Gags the Clown saying he doesn't understand the draw of Cody or Shinsuke. Hey, I have a great appreciation for Cody Rhodes because he's a heck of a performer. I definitely appreciate the fact that when WWE said, well, we're going to offer you a 6-year deal, $500,000 a year, he's like, you know what? I think I could do better than that. And he did. Yep. He said he had his 7-figure year the year after he left WWE. Like, I was like, what's Cody going to do? Is he going to go off into obscurity like Ted DiBiase Jr. until he gets brought up on fraud charges from the state he lives in because he embezzled funds or defrauded funds or got funds funneled through his brother to him? I don't know. I thought Cody was going to go off into the great wide open and not going to be seen unless he desperately needed to get back to professional wrestling, and he just went and did it.
Him and his friends sold out a 10,000-seat arena that nobody thought they were going to do. Cody bet on himself. A couple of buddies. I've been a fan of Cody Rhodes for 17 years, since he debuted in the main roster in 2006. I've enjoyed his work. I enjoyed him when he was Dashing Cody Rhodes. I enjoyed him when he was with Ted DiBiase and Randy Orton. We talk ad nauseum about him and the Rhodes Scholars, which is such a great tag team when they were together.
The time immediately kind of following Dashing Cody Rhodes with the paper bags.
The Cody Rhodes I saw at SmackDown and at the Mohegan Sun Casino. Yep. And he was handing out the paper bags, and I still remember he tried handing one to Booker T, and Booker T's like, I ain't putting that on. And Michael Cole is calling like halfway through the match with the paper bag over his head. And I just remember sitting there because I'm up in the 2-somethings, and I'm just looking at Michael Cole, and all you see is this brown bag over his head, and you just see him. I'm like, Michael Cole, you are the biggest fucking tool I've ever seen in my entire life, and this just proves it. But yeah, I'm one of the few people on planet Earth that loves Stardust. Because not too many people could have knocked out. Rhodes definitely could have knocked it out like he did. And I knew that he was going to go out there. I even said, you can go back 6-7 years ago. We better go quick if that was the case, because I know Twitter said that if you have stuff on Periscope and it's not saved, you're going to lose it. But if you go back to the early years when he first left WWE, when we first started doing this podcast, and I said, he's going to go out there and prove to WWE that he is a bigger deal than what they thought he was. Because when they negotiated that contract with him in 2016, they saw him for what he was, and he saw himself for what he was. And now 7 years later, he's a lot closer to what he thought than they did. He's getting the spot. He's main eventing WrestleMania this year.
And he deserves it.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
He's busting his ass.
And as much as, Gags, you don't see the allure of Cody and Shinsuke, a lot of people do as far as Cody goes. And I appreciate the fact that he worked his tail off to get there.
Yes.
Nakamura, I'm kind of sort of with you with that, like where I'm not in love with what I've seen of Nakamura in WWE. I think he worked better in Japan, and I think that's because he has had less restrictions on him. He could go out and do the thing that he wanted to do in the style he wanted to do it, and I think that's a little bit of it. You know, I think he can communicate with the audience pretty well. I mean, you got somebody like Asuka who doesn't speak English very well, but she communicates exceptionally well.
Oh, she's phenomenal.
Whether it's actions, facial reactions to
mannerisms,
things, or like being crazy.
Yeah.
But Asuka actually communicates better with the audience than Shinsuke does, and I think that's a little bit part of the disconnect.
Yep. I agree. I think Shinsuke, he peaked in NXT, and he just wasn't going to transition up to the main roster the way that he did in NXT or how he did in Japan. But he was there. He had a hell of a run. He was very successful. He just didn't win the title, the big one. But I mean,
he's had a fine run in WWE.
Hall of Fame worthy.
He hasn't had a main event. He's over the Coco Beware line by a lot.
Oh yeah, easily.
And if we find out tonight the Demolition is part of this class of Hall of Fame inductees, I will lift my ban on WWE Hall of Fame because clearly Vince would no longer be involved in decision making. If we get somebody like Lex Luger, who is extremely deserving of a Hall of Fame nod, I would love that. I would love to see one Psycho Sid, who is a multiple-time WWF champion, who's not in the Hall of Fame, who did far more for the company than Coco Beware ever did. Just because he likes to play softball doesn't mean you shouldn't have him in your Hall of Fame.
There's only one name I want to hear this year, Cyndi Lauper. If there was one name I could hear of any name that they could put into the Hall of Fame this year, it's Cyndi Lauper, because she, in my mind, is the greatest omission. If you're going to have Mr. T, you need to have Cyndi Lauper. And Mr. T is definitely well deserving of it. How Mr. T, even though he's in the celebrity wing, is well over the Coco Beware line.
He is.
He main evented WrestleMania 1.
Tim, I believe Coco Beware of the professional wrestlers is the worst of the Hall of Fame. Nikolai Volkov's a little bit above him.
Bella Twins.
And there was somebody they put in last year where I was like going, that's just a mild step up from Nikolai. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. But anyway, there have been a couple that they put in there. Clearly, Celebrity Wing
Drew Carey
is the bottom line.
They put Drew Carey in before they put in Cyndi Lauper. That's all I have to say. You could talk about the Coco Beware line all you want. The Drew Carey line is much more offensive to me than the Coco Beware line.
Yeah?
Yeah? Anything else?
Nothing. No, you know what? I don't think there's anything. You know what? I'll just mention, because we didn't get into this. Ronda Rousey dealing with an injury. Apparently, it's part of an old injury, a hairline fracture that is not going to require surgery. And they were kind of unsure whether or not she would be able to be healthy enough for WrestleMania. But, with a hairline fracture, usually those things only take a few weeks to heal if they don't require surgery. So she should be healed enough. I mean, she was a UFC fighter. If you could stand, you could wrestle. She'll be there. She'll be at WrestleMania. Whether you like her or not, she is still a draw of some kind, and she will be there, and it'll be a tag team match. So even if she is the shits, it's only going to be 1/4 of it.
Wrong. Just because you can stand doesn't mean you can wrestle. Just ask Dominic Mysterio. Just ask Ronda Rousey. Just ask people we were just talking about on this podcast, the great Khali and Giant Gonzalez. Just because you can stand doesn't mean you can actually wrestle, Jay. Because I can stand, and I can tell you right now, I can't wrestle to save my life. Any man with 2 hands is a fighting chance.
I'm just saying. Another minor thing I'd like to note, Johnny Gargano, Johnny Wrestling returned to NXT this week and will be facing one Grayson Waller at Stand and Deliver during WrestleMania weekend.
Which is incredible long-term storytelling, considering when Johnny Gargano left NXT, it was Grayson Waller who beat him up before, as his last thing in NXT, and now he's returning to get his vengeance. So I think that's great long-term storytelling, and it was Shawn Michaels that broke it to him in the Waller effect or whatever the hell his show is called.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, God. If it's Ronda and Shayna versus the Bella Twins, I'm going to puke.
He's going to puke.
All
right. What do you want to talk about now? Is it time for Good, Bad, and Brainless?
I think it's time for the Good, Bad, and Brainless because we got all my topics covered. All right, so what do you got for your good? Hold on, real quick. Spoiler alert. It's a clean sweep. Good, Bad, and Brainless, all owned by one company this week. So with that being said, what's your good for this week, Cousin Jay?
You know what? Honestly, I had several ways I think I could have gone with this. I could have gone with the Cody and Roman promo. I could go with the John Cena and Austin Theory promo that we got. I have to go with Danielson and MJF doing what they did at AEW Revolution. Now, as much as it doesn't make sense to have like the crazy, what should be the blow-off to a feud match first, there are still ways you could book this thing where if you want to get Danielson back in this at some point, part of the deal here is Danielson picked his shot for going against MJF and lost, thinking that hey, as much as Danielson cheated to win, Danielson goes away and finds that thing inside him that he needed to get to that he didn't have to come back for that title. That's the story that they're going to tell. But the story that they ended up telling here in this Iron Man match was just extraordinary. And you had the right guy go over, and the guy who everybody's like, well, he talks well on the microphone. He can't really go in the ring. And it's like the dude just keeps on having master classes in promo telling, but then he keeps on having these incredible matches that people are talking about.
Yep.
Whether it was the dog collar match that he had with CM Punk, like a year ago.
Yep.
Whether it's, the stuff he did leading up to winning the championship. He just keeps on having good matches.
Yep.
And he could do all the crazy stuff in the ring that you see the other people is getting the oohs and ahs for, but instead of wasting his time doing it at a time where, like, it doesn't mean much. He's like, I'm going to do it when it freaking matters. So I'm completely on board with MJF doing his thing as he's doing it. And this match was exactly what you want out of professional wrestling.
Agreed. And I would have went that route too, but I'm going with Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm sorry. The dude was brought in during the COVID period as just like a tryout guy who kind of stuck around and has now won his first major championship in professional wrestling, the Hot Potato TNT Championship.
The 24/7.
The AEW 24/7 is the title. Take all the jokes out of it about the championship. The fact that he won it, he deserved it. I know there was kind of a fucked finish because it was him and freaking QT Marshall kind of, getting the distraction and costing Wardlow the match. But I am so happy for Hobbs because he really is. He's really one of my favorites in AEW. I actually enjoy it when he's on. So I'm really happy for him. So I'm going with Hobbs for my good.
All right.
What do you got for your bad?
So in general, I'm just putting the TNT Championship for my bad. From it being for having 3 different people with the title in the last week. Wait, no, 4 because somebody stole it. And just all the stuff that's gone on with the TNT title lately. Tony, put it on somebody, stick it on somebody, and let them have a run at it. I know they've done that with the TBS Championship with Jade, but damn, you can't just keep on changing the title like that because people are not going to take it serious anymore.
No, I definitely don't take it serious.
Been the greatest TV champion of all time if he just kept on winning it for 5 days.
That's wrong, because if Arn Anderson at any point that he is television champion is the greatest television champion of all time. Arn Anderson could hold the television championship for 12 minutes, and he goes down as the greatest television champion of all time. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Wrong. Arn Anderson's still the greatest TV champion of all time. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. All right, what do you for your bad?
I'm going to go with MJF. I'm sorry. The whole thing of dumping the drink on the kid, I understand that if this was a plant and all this stuff was planned out, I get it. But the fact is the kid wasn't expecting it. You grabbed the cup out of a woman's hand. You had no idea what was in the cup. It happened to be, whether it was alcohol or water, whatever it is, it's not a good look. So I'm sorry. I had to give MJF my bad just because of the fact that it's not a good look right now, especially if alcohol was in the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you got for brainless?
I'm going with WWE trying to get gambling on their matches legalized in those states. As much as there are some good aspects to this, I think in the long term, it's a extremely bad idea because at some point, guess what? Somebody's going to cheat and it's going to be the biggest black eye on WWE because everybody will be like, it's predetermined. Of course this was going to happen. As much as like you could sit there and try to do things with reps and let's say like a sport like basketball or even in football, like they can't determine everything. WWE determines everything. And if any of that gets out to anybody and somebody makes a killing on it, it could be the end of that company. So,
well, I'm going to say this. At least it's a good thing that they don't own the Jacksonville Jaguars, considering they just traded for a player that got suspended from the NFL for gambling on his football team. But
sad.
Unfortunately for you and me agreeing on the brainless this week, it's because the inner El Diablo Blanco, lives very strong in the brainless one. So I can never at any point consider anything being considered up for gambling as a bad or a brainless. But I will say that the TNT Championship, it did get my brainless for this week, only because of the fact that, like you said, Jade Cargill has been TNT or TBS champion for well over a year. And in the time period since she won the championship, the TNT title has changed hands close to a dozen times, if not exactly a dozen times. They were averaging the title changing hands like once every 6 weeks. It's not good. This is the title that they said was the belt associated with Brody Lee. This was his championship. He's going to go down as the greatest TNT champion of all time, no matter what. And this is how you're treating it? I know he worked in WWE, but you're going to treat it like a secondary title in WWE? And on top of the fact that I actually went through weeks ago with somebody having a conversation about this because they said that this is what happens with secondary titles. And I said, well, Jade Cargill's had the TBS title for well over a year. Shut them right the fuck up. But
Gunther's
had the Intercontinental title for almost a year now. I know the U.S. title's kind of changed hands a little bit, but, Theory had to drop it to get it back just to kind of reestablish himself, and I have no problem with him being U.S. champion. Hell, since he won the title the last time, there's been like 7 different TNT champions.
Right. Maybe Dom will get the U.S. title at some point.
Oh, that's going to happen. He's definitely going to get that or the Intercontinental at least once. But anyway, if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F in Marks. If you'd like and follow, subscribe to us. We will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra, and make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live on our Facebook page, you will be notified that we are live. Also, make sure you give a subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and all the places where podcasts are. It just helps us to get better in their algorithm and hopefully get more eyes on what we do. And with YouTube, we're definitely trying to build our subscriber base and get to a certain level and possibly in the future have some fun and exciting changes, but we will see. We have to get to certain levels of things, and it would be great for that to happen. And I'm hoping some of the things that I'm working on, whether it's the stuff for the Hall of Fame or the stuff for the things cooking in my brain for this, whether it's that or I've got some fun ideas for instead of doing live performances on the show for music, I've got ideas for making our own specific song for the show based off of things that have happened in the show.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It takes a long time to cull all that stuff together. I end up spending half my Saturday just going through the show and finding the stuff that will end up littering the feeds for the next week.
Such good shit, pal. Speaking of which, real quick, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If I do have to watch the December to Dismember pay-per-view, do I really have to watch that first match between the Hardy Boys and Eminem? I have no actual issue with the match. I don't know if I can handle Joey Mercury taking the ladder to the face again.
Oh, that brutal.
Wow.
So Mike Rainey, Rey Mysterio, the first nominee for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's good.
Can't wait to see Dom come out in the middle of his Hall of Fame speech and ruin it.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
that's gonna be phenomenal. But I think we've touched base on everything.
Yeah, we definitely have touched base on everything. There's absolutely nothing that we've missed. I think we're ready to pack it up, pack it in, and
Jump around?
Yeah, jump around and head off for another week into the sunset. This 303rd edition of the F and Marks podcast.
Wait. There is one more thing.
What's that brainless one?
Cousin Jay, did you know that today, March 10th of 2023, and in an impressive 2,966 days, this guy, F and Marks Hall of Famer, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Bow, 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 bow.
I'm just going to say it's a good thing that we don't have him as our bar to get into our Hall of Fame, because nobody would ever get into our Hall of Fame. Our Hall of Fame would be basically Curtis Axel.
Yeah.
And the Iron Sheik, because Iron Sheik took, 21 years to get into the ring at WrestleMania 17.
Mick Foley,
too. But anyway, for episode 303 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks.
I'm Jay, and he is...
I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See everybody. Enjoy SmackDown. We will talk with you next week.
Yeah?
Yeah!
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Later, Cousin Jay. Yeah?